welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hi Mason, how's it going, man?
Good again. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Obviously big fan, so was nice to be invited on.
Thanks very much. Well, it's our pleasure to have you, mate. It's our pleasure to have you. I suppose one of the first things that we ask fighters usually is how you get into MMA. But I know from watching one or two of your interviews that you've had that question quite a few times. And as someone that's and as someone that's been on the opposite side of getting the same questions over and over again, I can totally appreciate that gets a bit boring. So I want to just run down, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I run down for people listening a little bit of the answer to that question because they might want to know. But I know you started off in like a kickboxing gym, but it was more like self-defense, wasn't it? And then you kind of moved on from there to do judo, BJJ, boxing, Muay Thai, just anything to make yourself a better all-round fighter.
That's actually the perfect order.
Yeah, there you go. See, I've done my research.
So perfect. 7 years old, I started training. Obviously, I'm 26 now, so it's a good 18 years I've been training. But freestyle kickboxing. I did judo on a national level, so I traveled a lot to compete with judo. Traveled all over Europe. Competed in European Cup level. Won the nationals once or twice. Qualified for the GB team. I qualified for the Commonwealth Games, and was all set to go to the Commonwealth Games before I got injured again. But yeah, I did a lot.
So was your aspiration then to maybe go and do kind of like the Olympic level judo or something like that?
No, the only reason I did judo was because I was a kid. I wanted to get a sort of wrestling base for MMA when I went back into it. But there was just no high level wrestling in the UK. So we started judo, and like the main thing was just to compete. Like the level difference and the competing difference in judo to say anything else is, well, still it was a completely different level. Like Olympic sports just have that volume that nowhere else has. Like we go away compete, and I remember I went away to a veterinary competition once to compete, and there was 130 competitors just in my weight category alone. So it was something like 8 or 9 fights just to a medal.
Wow.
So even going back at that point, MMA was where you wanted to take this.
Yeah, the kickboxing academy I started with. There was me, Joseph Duffy, Jack Marshman, Jack Shaw, Richard Shaw, just to name a few, all training out at the same gym. And all of us ended up in the MMA route. Obviously, just a few of them was just ahead of me. All of them was ahead of me. But like, it was what I always wanted to do. Like, I trained, and is why I like doing. Like, I like being able to mix it up. I always like the whole aspect of, if you fight someone who's a better strike than you, then you can always take them down. Fighting someone who's got better wrestling than you, then you can always outstrike them. And then if you're fighting someone who's got good wrestling and good striking, then there's always the jiu-jitsu aspect of things, and you can just control situations. And then there's the variance in between, and the time in between. And it is just like mental chess. Like I say this a lot, but it is mental chess. Like MMA fighting is an unbelievable thing, and people see it as sort of savage and barbaric, which it is. But it's also something that's beautiful to watch, because it is outmaneuvering someone, and it's not just about being able to run through someone, which happens a lot. It's a lot of it is timing people, and laying traps for people and making them fall into them. And when you start seeing stuff like that, it is a beautiful sport to watch.
So what was it that made you go, this is what I'm going to attempt to make my career? Because a lot of people train in martial arts, they do it as either a hobby or just for self-defense or for whatever reason they want to. What was it that made you go, this is what I want to really dedicate my life to and actually earn a living from this?
So when I was a kid, like we're talking 5 or 6, I really wanted to be in the army. It's what I wanted to do as a kid. As I was running around, my parents always said I was always trying to fight everyone, and then always running around with knives or guns, and obviously not real ones. But Like I always wanted to either fight or to be an army man. And they took me for a colorblind test when I was younger, and I was colorblind, so the army thing sort of went out the picture. And then they ended up finding kickboxing, and I started competing. And like by the time I was probably 11 or 12, like we saw like the UFC, the judo was going through and different things. And I remember sitting down with my dad and him saying, look, if you want to do this as a career, like there's ways you can. And we just sort of pushed for it. And by the time I was 15 or 16, we knew I was good enough to do it. Like I would, even at 15 or 16, I was winning all the jiu-jitsu competitions around. I was competing at high level in judo. My striking was decent from the old kickboxing, but obviously I had a lot of work to do. And then by the time I was 17, and just before the Commonwealth, I left judo, went back into boxing, started doing a lot more BJJ, went to Brazil, trained in Brazil, come back, got my pro boxing license and pro boxed. And then I had 3 pro boxing fights with 6 cancelled bouts. So that got down to me a bit. And then just made the switch early just because of the trouble I had boxing, the amount of like pullouts and shows getting cancelled and different things. And yeah, definitely a good career choice. The time I switched back into MMA, I literally just caught it at the right time. Not saying obviously my ability didn't make everything happen, but I had a lot of opportunities. Like the shows, I got on the Cage Warriors shows when they literally just started with the Safe MMA improvement. And then I had 5 fights. Well, I had 6 fights in 12 months. I was pushing for 7th in 14 when I decided to ease out. I had a couple of little niggles that were just sort of build up just from fighting so much. But yeah, 6 fights in 12 months. And that really is that's what really led the push, to be fair. And then when COVID settled in, if I'd already been signed to the UFC, I wouldn't have been able to fight. But the way it was, Cage Warriors was the only shows putting events on, and I was literally just peaking, ready for a title fight, and then it happened. And then obviously the welterweight title I asked for, and I won the welterweight title as well. So that aided that's what resulted in me getting signed to the UFC, and everything just sort of fell into place perfectly for me.
I just want to sort of go back a little bit and to them early kind of kickboxing matches and early judo competitions and stuff. Was you always someone that was comfortable with confrontation and you know, was you confident in them situations, like in them early scraps before you get into sort of MMA?
I was always comfortable, and it's always something I wanted to do. Like I've always been one of those who sort of like just thrived in the chaos of it. I've always loved the violence side of things. Like some people are martial artists in this sport. I'm really not. Like I'm just a fighter. But obviously, like the judo competitions, I was nervous. I really struggled with the judo. Like I was nervous because it was never something I was really good at. And it was always something that I had to work harder than everybody else to do. Like, so one of my friends I trained with, who was just a natural at it and really could have done something special with judo. It was just a lot of the political side of things when it goes down to the sport that really sort of chewed him up. But me and him would train together, and we was the same weight. And I remember he'd pick stuff up instantly, and I would just have to hammer it in to pick these things up because judo was just not something that I wasn't naturally good at. But it was something I knew I really needed, and my fights moving forward just made such a big difference. And just like the competing at that level is just sort of, it's helped so much. And definitely, like I wouldn't be the fighter I am today if I hadn't done it.
So it's one thing to be good with confrontation when you're expecting confrontation. You're going into a pre-organized fight or a tournament, a competition, whatever it is. Gus, where did you grow up, Mason? And was that a place where you had to maybe be prepared for confrontation
You have been
outside
watching
of
my
those
interviews.
things?
You've definitely been watching my other interviews. Yeah, so I grew up from a local town in Wales. It's a small town. I think population now it's either 5,500 or 6,000 people. It's not very big. But to be fair, like we'd go out, we'd have a couple of scraps, nothing really big. Like as kids, you do now and again. It was nothing really serious. And then when we started going out to Newport, which is one of the newest cities. Like 17, we started going out, and we'd fight a lot. Like I've never been a big drinker either. Like I was usually the one who was driving. I normally try the boys and look after the boys more than anything. Like because I was competing so much, I just made the choice not to drink for different reasons. I would now and again. I stopped drinking completely when I was 4 years ago when I was 22. Before then, I would only drink sporadically. Like I think one time I went like 18 months without drinking, and then I ended up getting drunk at a party and then saying I was never going to drink again and different things like that. So
yeah, we've all been there, mate.
Yeah. So like we started going out in Newport, and it was just sort of like we just ended up fighting all the time. Like we went out, we used to go as a big group. So there was literally all the boys from town. So there used to be about 20 or 30 of us would go out, and me being the sober one, I was always the one who would like trying to drag the boys out of trouble and different things. And a lot of the time we just end up scrapping all the time. So yeah, we used to fight a lot, and like we never actually got in big trouble for the fights, which is lucky. But I think it was just more like the time we was at. Like a lot of stuff I don't think we get away with now, but yeah, we used to fight a lot. And I mean, like some of the fights we've had like 30 on 30 brawls in the middle of Newport.
Wow.
Yeah, in the streets. I fought 3 boys on my own before. I did good as hell in that. I remember one of the boys was laughing because one of my friends got punched, and I'd literally just been walking my judo coach back up to a taxi rank to get a lift home. And he caught a taxi because obviously my friend was just a bit too much. And as we walked back down, I walked in, and one of my friends just had a broken nose. And I was like, "What happened to you?" And he's like, "Oh, someone just headbutted me." I was like, "Look, who?" And he pointed at this big group of boys. So I grabbed one of the boys, like, "Oh, come on." So we went across, and one of the boys looked at me, and we just started scrapping. And my friend I was with just got punched. Another boy was with ran away. So we got kicked out, the two of us. And he went strolling up the road, like complaining about his nose his eye where he got punched. And I turned around, and these three boys come out. And I remember I was just like, "Oh, come on, and if we're gonna go, let's go." So he said he turned around and he said he could just hear me laughing, fighting these 3 boys. Like I had one of them tie clinch, just dropping knees, while the other 2 were just trying to blast me in the side of the head. Like I've always loved a good scrap, and like it's never really been a problem for me. Like I've always been good with my hands, and I've always been able to take a good shot. And like I've never like I've never been an arrogant person, but I've never been afraid to stick up for myself. And like as weird as it sounds, I've always tried to live a moral life. Like I've never hit someone first unless I've needed to. And the only time I've ever done that is when obviously I felt threatened. And I've always tried to live on that whole respect motto. And to be fair, it's just like the older I got, the more I found that it was more just sort of throwing people and sort of warning people would help a lot better than just sort of ended up getting in fights. And like the amount of times I've ended up begging people please just to leave situations, and as soon as people have a drink, they don't really listen. But it was one of the reasons I stopped going out so much. I ended up sticking up for a friend of mine. One of my friends, I literally just had shoulder surgery, and I had rotator cuff surgery, and I'd only been 2 weeks out of sling. And this was one of the reasons I stopped judo, was I didn't know whether I'd be able to go back in. So really uncertain point in my life. I went out locally, and there was a friend of mine, like he was only 18 at the time, and a friend of mine was getting abused quite a lot. So he was getting messages and different things off these group of boys, them telling him he was going to kill him, different things. And he was always tough. He could always look after himself. I remember these 2 boys come down, and they were a lot older than us. So we were 18. I think the one was 26 and the other one was 25. So like at that age as well, there's a big difference between 18-year-olds and mid-20s boys. Like especially the guy was a little weasel at about 18. I remember they were arguing. And in the end, like a couple of us come around and I was like, look, man, I was like, please just leave. I was like, we don't need it. I was like, but if you stay and you keep going down this route, I was like we are going to end up sticking up for him. I remember this guy looked at me and you could see the clogs going around his head, and he swung at me and I hit him back and I broke his jaw in 2 places. So I ended up having to go to the court route and different things. And that was probably the last time I ended up having the fight outside. He pressed charges, asked him for compo, and I got acquitted in the end. So I got excused all charges, different things. And that really did, like, it really did show like it was a different time from when we was really young, like a couple of years ago, like 16, 17, when we used to scrap and it was all fun and games, to when you're 18 and someone wants to pay out and then they end up pushing and different things. And like one of the reasons I actually got excused, acquitted, was a year after while we was waiting for the court to go through, the boy had his jaw plated, and he beat up a 13-year-old kid. So he was 26, beat up a 13-year-old kid.
Wow.
And the boy's brother knocked his door, broke his jaw with a bat. So it makes it sound like I'm from a really rough place. But it's not. It was just, it was like, I just ended up bumping in like my friends just, they just piled, and like we went out, we enjoyed ourselves, we chased girls, we partied. But like I never did drugs. We was never that sort of type of group of friends. We never really, did drugs. I know a lot of people around my age were doing drugs at that time. We just sort of partied and like to go out and chase girls. And obviously a lot of time when you're chasing girls, you end up in trouble. So that's the main thing. But yeah, I grew up a lot after that. Like it really did change a lot for me. And it sort of made me realize that like, if I wanted this future, like it wasn't enough to just train 3-4 times a day and sacrifice trips and parties. Like I had to sacrifice more, and that's what I've done. Like I don't drink. I haven't drank for 4 years, and before that, I never really did. When I signed the UFC, I gave up every other hobby I had. So I used to drive motorbikes. I stopped driving motorbikes. I used to skydive a lot. I stopped skydiving. I used to surf and different things. I stopped doing that. Anything that I was doing that could get me injured, I stopped doing. So like we used to do a lot of things, like we'd be jumping off bridges into rivers and different things. I stopped all that. Like anything that could result in me getting injured, I stopped. And like the conversation we had was like I had with my parents and my girlfriend was, I'm 26. I want to be looking to retire about 35. I've got 9 years. It's not a long time, and it's not a lot of time to get things done. So,
and those bridges will still be there for you to jump off of later. I'm sure the bridges will be there, mate.
Mate,
they're built very well.
The skydiving was the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like I used to love skydiving. To be fair, the time we was doing it, I didn't have much money, so I think I've only done like 38 jumps. So for skydiving world, that's like below a novice, but that's 38 solos. But I don't know. It's hard, like, because I still want to buy a motorbike. I still want to do a lot of these different things. I used to surf a lot. I haven't done that for a while. I was good at snowboarding, and we used to go away snowboarding all the time, and I've stopped doing that. So these things that you give up, and they're things that, like, some of the things I could get away with. Like I'm probably going to surf a little bit, especially if I end up moving out to California in the next year or so. I'll probably end up getting on a surfboard and going surfing again. But I don't know, it's all about minimalizing risk, and really, like, the more you sacrifice, the more you dedicate yourself, like the better it is. Like I never stop going to the gym. Even when a fight's over, I may have like a week off, but straight back in the gym. You can't have longer than that. I know some people don't train unless they've got fights coming up, and that's, in my eyes, is a massive mistake. Like you improve more in the off season than you do in the in season. Like all you do in the in season is sharpen and tighten up what you already have. Like you're not learning anything new. And the world's always changing. The fight game's always changing. There's always new things coming out, and new tricks and new rediscovered, as my coach used to say, rediscovered things that you need to get on top of that are sort of in fashion at the time. Like you see in the fight game, it was calf kicks were a lot. The calf kicks, and people just didn't know how to deal with them, and that won me like three or four of my fights. So you just always got to be in the gym.
You mentioned obviously signing with the UFC, and you know, you entered in the UFC a 2-weight Cage Warriors champ, and you know that's there's few and far between how many people have
There's
got
3
that.
of us.
There's you,
There's
obviously
3 of us.
Connor and Dan Hardy. So what I want to ask you about is how you deal with the weight of expectation and responsibility, and you know, you're the lad from the valleys that stepped into the UFC, you know, and you know that everybody is expecting to, you know, to see you go out there. Everybody's rooting for you. How does that hang on your shoulders? And talk us through a little bit more about the mental side of preparing for a fight.
So actually, that's something that a lot of people don't really talk about and don't do much on. I've done a lot of visualization stuff, especially in the judo. And then when I was pro, I did a lot more, a lot of visualization exercises, different things. We have goal boards, vision boards, and all these different things. So like I write my goals out, I visualize the nights. After the training sessions, we visualize, like you try and do as much as you can. But what's helped me more than anything, apart from the visualization, was just I train as hard as I can. And I have good coaches around me who can let me know when I'm allowed to rest and different things. So it's not all lying on my shoulders when it comes to that side of things. And I know that if I prepare the best of my ability and I'm feeling good, then when it comes to fight time, that there is no pressure. And I know that's a weird thing to come to, but I don't get nervous anymore. I just get excited. Like it took my coaches a long time to get used to, because my coaches weren't used to someone like that, because like after weigh-ins we won't talk about the fight because I need to sleep in the night, and otherwise I end up getting like just like a kid at Christmas, end up jumping around different things. So we don't talk about the fight after weigh-ins, and then fight day comes and it's just all about keeping me calm for the longest time. So we just try and sit around, we have a little bit of a shake off just to get moving, but we don't really do anything, and it's just all waiting for the fight to happen. And like I remember my last fight, I was warming up and I just felt so good. I felt so good. Like it's the best I've ever felt before a fight. And like when the fight happened, I was in control all the way through. I controlled the first round, and I still felt like I was holding myself back, keep myself about 40%. Like I hadn't started chaining my combos together. I just kept everything basic and everything quite singular. I haven't really started putting my hands together, and I was like, look, just wait and drain him out. And we stuck the game plan perfectly. And in the second round, I took him down, which I didn't expect to do, and really started to open our eye up that I'd split open. And then obviously as we started to come back up, and I was like, all right, I'm really gonna start applying pressure to striking now, and I'm gonna look for that finish. I slipped off the shoulder and ended up poking him in the eye, and he found a way out. But I felt so good, and like the pressure side of things, I don't see. Like I really don't get nervous, and it just doesn't affect me anymore. And like even the welterweight title and the lightweight title, like I wasn't nervous. My UFC debut, I wasn't nervous. My UFC debut, I felt terrible. I warmed up and nothing was clicking, nothing was firing. I felt terrible, and I still wasn't nervous because it was like if it's not your best day, you've still got to perform. And I didn't perform the way I should have and the way I could have, but I performed enough to get a performance bonus. But obviously lose my undefeated status, even though that's a bit of a joke.
I've heard you talk about this before with that Mike Davis fight, your first ever UFC fight. You're 10-0 at the time, and unfortunately, you know, you lost that one by a decision. But I've heard you say this one. I've heard you say, you know, that you didn't feel right go walking to the cage and warming up beforehand and stuff. Had you ever experienced that before? That feeling of not feeling yourself, or like you haven't flipped that switch yet or anything like that? Have you had that before when going out for a fight, or was that a new experience that you're like, oh, and you said you weren't nervous about it, which I find amazing that you weren't nervous. You're about to go and fight some guy in your UFC debut and you're like, I don't feel myself. That to me sounds incredibly nerve-wracking, but you're clearly made of different stuff than I am. But I just want to, so had that happened before to you? Was that a new experience?
So the only thing that was a little bit different on this one was my legs were just so fatigued. Like I literally just couldn't move my legs. It felt like I was just running through sand. but that was the stuff we done in the prep, and like with the COVID regulations and stuff, like there's no excuses, because there is no excuses in the fight game. But I made mistakes, and these are mistakes that have sort of affected me, and it was just stuff that we had got used to before, but like with the COVID stuff and all, we couldn't do what we normally do moving into that, like that 2 week period. Like I was in isolation for 2 weeks, so it was only certain sessions we could do, and like it was like 48 hours stuck in the room here, and there's only so much we could do, and then 48 hours here and different things. So it made it a little bit more difficult, but it's just things that I should have done better, and that's the easiest way to put it. But yeah, I definitely fought fights like that. I won fights where I felt terrible. I fought in Cage Warriors, my 4th or 5th fight. I fought a guy called Common Day in London, and I fought the fight with a broken hand. So my hand was broken before the fight.
Wow.
So I come out, and to be fair, it was one of my best learning experiences. It was one of the worst performances, but a good learning experience, because I come out, couldn't throw a right hand. So I was like, look, I'm just going to take him down and sub him. I was like, I'm high level jiu-jitsu brown belt at the time. I was like, my wrestling's good. I was like, I'm just going to take him down and sub him. And I remember I picked him up and slammed him. Must have been 5 or 6 times. Every time I took him back down, he just managed to get scramble straight back to his feet. And I remember coming back to the first round, I was like, fuck. I picked him up and taken him down like 5 or 6 times. And I did the same in the second round, took him down. And I was just so tired. And after that, I redesigned my wrestling game completely. So rather than going for these big flashy lifts and slamming people down, it was just sort of like trying to be more economical and trying to just sort of minimize the effort and sort of just be as efficient as possible. And I went out to Team Alpha Male, and that was the first time I went out to Team Alpha Male after that fight. And yeah, it made one hell of a difference.
Well, tell us a little bit about how that happened, how you ended up in Team Alpha Male, and you know, you're talking about the age when, you know, you sit there and you're saying to your dad, this is what you want to do, and your dad was, you know, supporting you in this decision. Like, surely back then, the fighters that you would have been watching would have been, you know, so many of the stars that have come through Team Alpha Male. Like, how was that? You know, but how did that happen? And when you got there, how was it walking into Team Alpha Male?
So 2018 was the first time I went to Team Alpha Male. So I don't even know how old I was then, like 3 or 4 years ago. So 21, I think. Yeah, 21, maybe a bit older than that. Anyway, so I was 21 going in. So a friend of mine, in Nad Narimani, who was also in the UFC, he's from the same jiu-jitsu family as me, sort of. I trained with him for years. He'd been going out to Team Alpha Male and saying about how much of a big difference it made. So, like, my wrestling I realized my wrestling really needed work. Like, I was good from a lot of the judo stuff I did, but I just had a lot to improve on. So I was like, look, let's go to Team Alpha Male, see what it's like, and we'll go from there. So I had a new sponsor from the gym who said they'd pay for all the costs. They paid for my training fees, they paid for an Airbnb for me and one of my coaches could stay, and they paid for me and one of my coaches, and then my other coach self-fund to come with us. So we went out. We got to the gym. We messaged the Train with Tam page, and he was like, "Look," he's like, "I'm running a little bit late." He's like, "Go up," and he said someone will be there to meet you. So I got there, and Uriah actually came out to meet me, and he was like, "Oh, welcome to Tam." Asked a bit about me because he knew nothing about me, and walked me across, asked me how long I was staying, different things. Said Dave, the guy who normally meets people, is just he was stuck. He's doing an airport lift for someone, so like he'd show me around. It's like, all right, no problem. And then he took me across, and so this is when Cody had the Cody Garbrandt had the world title. And I remember walking across, and Cody was coming the opposite way, and Uriah stopped to speak to him, and Cody looked at me and went, "Oh, hi, my name's Cody." And me and my coaches sort of looked at him and was like, "Yeah, we know who you are." It was like, "Nice to meet you." It's like, who's he's got a UFC world title, and he's introducing himself as if we didn't know his first name. And I remember Uriah saying to Cody, like, "Oh, like it's his first time here." And he was like, "Oh," so Cody put his arm around me, walked me down to the mats, and the session was just getting ready for the session to start. The session was starting in 30 minutes, but people were there waiting, and he introduced me to everyone. And I think at the time, like when I was training in Team Alpha then, I think there was 18 18 people fighting, all training on, who was on the mats at the time, who was in UFC. There was like Cynthia, there was Cody, Elkins, Feely, there was loads. By the time I went through it, there was about 18. There was a few Chinese, one or two of the Japanese boys. There was a lot. A couple of people from different parts of America. Like, there was ridiculous amounts. A couple of Bellator fighters, and they were all sound, really sound. Like, they wouldn't train me to start. That was the thing. Like, I started training, and like, I didn't really know anyone, so I made sure I was taking the time to like shake everyone's hand before all the sessions. And I remember it took me until my second trip before I got to train with like Darren Elkins or Andre or one of the higher level guys, because they just really careful who they train with, because they don't want to be training with someone who doesn't really know what they're doing and then have someone injure them. So
yeah,
it wasn't until my second trip I really got to sort of train and spar with one of these guys. But just the technical stuff he was doing, is some of the coaching was just stuff I'd never done before. Like the wrestling, like 101 basics, was just stuff I'd never done before. But then like some of the advanced wrestling stuff that Uriah would teach was just a lot of judo that they changed without a gi, and it just worked well for me. And then I met a couple of friends out there, people like Chris Gonzalez, who was like a wrestling D1 wrestler, who like I was training with, going well, and then he was like, come an hour before practice and we'll drill through some of these stuff I've done. And we'd turn up an hour before practice, drill through stuff, and then stay and train for an extra 2 hours after. So just make the most of it and just push. And that's the thing you can always do, is just always try to improve and push.
You mentioned that. Go on, sorry, Blake.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you know, we hear a lot about like the kind of slight weird kind of cultural differences between even both English speaking countries. And like, one of the things that's always brought up is like, oh, the Americans don't get the British sense of humor, stuff like that. Did you have any weird moments when you first went over where, you know, you're, as you said, we said, like, lad from the valleys, Welsh guy from the UK, like, were there any moments where you had like weird interactions with like these American guys?
Still
do you
happens.
still do?
Still happens. It's just stupid stuff. So we like go into a shop and order something now, and they'll be like, sorry, and then one of my friends will have to order for me because they just completely don't understand what I'm saying. And Andre's one of the funniest. Like, we'll be having conversations and he'll just start shouting at me, just speak American over and over again, just because he finds it funny, because he just, some of the stuff I'll say, especially if I get excited or if I speak too fast, they just don't understand anything I say. So it's still there. But on the comedy side of things, like a couple of boys from the gym, like Mexican families, they're unbelievably good laugh. They'll take a joke. So most of the Americans are just fragile. The fragile is the easiest way to put them. Like, you can't say certain things like we would back home because they don't really take it. Like, we've met like my family, for instance, like my mom's called me a bitch before. Like, whereas with the Americans, if you call one of them a bitch, they're like, oh, like they'll take it like you want to fight with one of them. And it's like, dude, do you know what I mean? my friends are bad for Welsh people. Like, the jokes they make is like savage, considering for some of the Welsh friends I've got. Like, my actual group of friends, like the jokes we have are just sick. But you can't even get away with some of the stuff we'd say out in public with the Yanks. They just don't appreciate it. I mean, but they are more sensitive to certain things, and certain things you can and can't say. And it is something I've learned, that it's difficult to have a joke and a laugh with certain people because they are quite sensitive, and you never want to offend people. But to be fair, they like most year are fine. Like, there's a lot of Canadians, a lot of Mexicans, boys training in the gym, and they're the sort of they're quite the same, as similar, to be fair. And well, there's a couple of Aussies. The Aussies are the same. The Aussies are as sick as we are. So yeah, that it's just different. To be fair, I went to LA over the weekend to watch one of my friends fight in Bellator, And then from the Bellator event, I went out to San Diego to watch the Cage Warriors event. And in San Diego, I was with two of the Australians from the gym, Adam Corrigan and Tess. And yeah, that was a brilliant laugh because it was just us three. So we was just throwing jokes at each other and seeing who had the sickest joke, to be fair. So they were fine. Like they understand, and their humor, Australian humor, is quite similar to British, so it's fine. But yeah, the Yanks are sensitive.
What you mentioned, I just want to talk about sort of money for a second, really, and you mentioned with Alpha Male, obviously you said you found a sponsor and stuff like that, and obviously to go and train and relocate to sort of California, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I mean, obviously I don't want to talk about earnings or anything like that.
I'm fine with that.
But I just wonder, like, when you're fighting, is it in the back of your mind a bonus? Does that ever enter your head when you're fighting? I want that bonus.
So when I first started in MMA, one of the things I really wanted to do, because I knew how well the UFC paid people and different things, and how expensive it was for just to live the life. And I always had conversations with my old man, different things, and he said, one of the things you need to get out of your head is you need to make sure you don't fight for money. He said, if you get carried away with this fight for money thing, he said, you'll end up falling into pits. He said, because you'll end up in that thing where you're spending money for fights, and then you're fighting for money to survive, and then you're taking fights you don't need because you need the money. So he said, you need to do what you can to build up your online presence and different things, just to get these sponsors and to build relationships with people to get these sponsors. Because if you can live a life where you're completely funded and you don't need to fight, then it takes away the stress of fighting and lets you just perform the best you can be. And I was getting into that place when I signed the UFC, and then I started coming out here a lot more. And then California is stupidly expensive, so I started regressing a bit. And then now I've got 2 new sponsors coming on board. Hopefully, I'm just waiting because they all say yes, but until they actually put money into your account, I learned that a long time ago. Until they send the money, it's never really agreed. Because like I've had people promise me the world and different things and say they had all these big pipe dreams, and then come down to it, and then they're like, this is falling apart, we can't do this anymore. Or I've had people who I've had basically contracts with for like 2-year sponsorships, and they've offered for more years, and they're like, if we knock it down a little bit, can we do the 2 years? And I've said, and we've agreed, and then they've done 1 year and just stopped it, completely shut off. So like it's hard because people, especially when I was coming through Cage Warriors, people didn't really get back much out of it. It was just the support, and that's where a lot of people don't see, like, it's not so much a marketing opportunity as it's just sort of helping someone out. And my sponsors I've got at the minute now are, to be fair, they just want to see me do the best I can, and they're people who they do it for the tax loophole more than anything else, but they just want to see me do well. But yeah, it is expensive. And then when you start getting to that fight thing, because it's always nice to get a bonus, especially if you get the extra 50 grand, like it's a life-changing amount of money, but people just don't understand. So for me, I do the YouTubing thing as well. So I blog quite a lot. So I discuss a lot of my financial side of things on there. I end up when I fight. So like when I fought in Abu Dhabi, I had I didn't win, so I had half my show money. So I had 10,000. I had 2,000. I had, what was it, 3,000 in Reebok sponsorship. And then I had the $50,000 bonus. So first thing that's first is they don't pay them all at the same time. So after the fight, you get your show money gets paid instantly as soon as the fight's done. Your Reebok money turns up. I think it turned up like 2 or 3 weeks after the fight. And then my bonus money didn't turn up for 2 months. And then when the UFC get around to paying it, it gets paid. And then when I first fought, I got paid into my personal account, which was a mistake. I didn't realize I should have really gone and seen a financial advisor before I'd fought. So they paid the dollars into the pound account. So I had fees from the bank for withdrawing money in dollars, and then the bank used their exchange rate to exchange the money, which was a lot lower than if I got an account for $1. So by the time we ended up with it all, I think it was how much was it? So 50, 10, 3. I think I ended up with about £38,000, or a bit less, out of the 63. I think it ended up with like either 38 or 42 probably. Then I have to pay my coaches, and to be fair, my coaches had a good relationship with me, so they never took money through Cage Warriors, and I always promised when we got there that I'd pay them. So I paid them a decent amount of money. I think after I paid them all a couple of grand each, just for the long-term thing and different things. And then my manager fees, like I had to pay my manager fees, different things. So I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that, so I won't. But that was a bit, because they take a percentage out of the whole amount. So I ended up paying them a percentage. And then I still had a decent amount of money left. Then by the time like you cover your camp fees from last camp, I put money away in different savings account. I put money away in a pension. I put money away in a first-time buyer's account. And then I put money away here for something else. And when I looked at the money I had left, I had like £12,000, which sounds like a brilliant amount of money, apart from the fact you've got to pay taxes. So it's like, it's all well and good, but it's so easy to lose money on different things. And like, I was lucky enough to have money to throw away, but like, it's if you go into fights expecting like to make a lot of money especially in the early days of fighting, it's not going to work out so well. Because by the time you start paying for different things, and like the UFC don't pay for our medicals, we pay like on the contract I'm on, I pay for my own medicals. And like my eye test before, when was it? It was before Abu Dhabi, because I was fighting in January. They wanted me to hang on, and they said, look, get your medicals done in January. And then because of the COVID rules, we needed to fly out on the 6th or 7th of January. And I sure it was something like Monday the 1st was a Friday, so it was closed. The 2nd was a Saturday. The 3rd was a Sunday. The 4th was a Monday. And then the 5th was a Tuesday. So there was nothing open on the Monday. So I had everything to do on the Tuesday, and then we had to leave on the Wednesday. So I was trying to get eye tests booked up and these medicals booked up and different things, and just nowhere was open at the time because everyone was coming back after New Year's. So we ended up finding, my manager ended up finding a place in London to do it, and I turned up, and it was, honestly, it was an eye centre in London that was like completely private, and like everyone in there was screaming money. And I remember they ripped me off so bad, because I remember I sat down in the chair, and like it was like, oh, your manager said you got a UFC fight coming up, and I was like, yeah, it's my debut, going away. And he was like, oh, so these need to be done today. And I was like, yeah, I need it done today. I was like, I've literally just got to stay here until it's done. And I'm sure he started rubbing his hands together when I said that, because they ended up, I think the total they charged me for an eye test, that should have charged me probably the most I would have paid would have been about £400, because you have to do you have to see a specialist to get done. They charged me, I think altogether I spent £2,000 for different things. They were just adding fees on left, right, and centre. They made me see 2 specialists. I had a tiny little scratch through the corner of my eye where one of the boys had headbutt me in training, and it didn't need stitches. And they he sent me to a different specialist to get it checked. And I said, look, I don't need that done. I said, I just need the form signed off. He said, I can't really in true consciousness sign this off until you've seen a specialist and my colleague signs you off. And I'm like, and then there was like, I had to pay like £500 for the specialist to come in early just to see me. And then they charged me like £300 for him to literally just put me under a magnifying glass, peel the scab off with tweezers, open it up, tell me it didn't need stitches, which I already knew, close it back up, put butterfly stitches on. And this was like literally where I was waiting to fight as well. So like they slowed the healing process down on my eye, different things, and all these different processes and different things. And it was just like, I was just literally in the end, I was just laughing. Like, I just need to get signed off. And I ended up paying, like I said, £2,000 to get my eye test done, because they literally just took me for as much money as they could. And I remember speaking to my parents back home, and they was like, "Oh, look, we're sorry." I was like, "Look," I was like, "There's nothing to do about it now." I was just laughing in the end. And then I remember right at the end, I'd already paid. Yeah, so I'd already paid $2,000. And I went. They was like, "Oh, can you just see the receptionist on your way out?" So I went to see the receptionist, and she was like, "Oh, so the doctor's left notes for you, and he said it's got £350 charge for him to take all the information and just collect it together." So on top of everything I'd done, just for him to agree to finish signing the form, he charged me an extra £350 on top, just as sort of like, just as I think it's just an extra fuck you on the way out. And I was just like,
Right.
so like people don't see that type of things, and they don't see like the different ways where you just get money taken off you for different things. And like these eye tests come in after Bisping. Obviously, it's definitely after the Bisping thing, because I know fighters who fight in UFC never had to do it before. They could just get a normal eye test, and then after the whole thing with Bisping come out, where he'd been fighting with one eye, all of a sudden they changed it, and now you have to see a optometrist, I think they're called. It's like I probably got it wrong. It's like an eye surgeon. It is. So not just you can't just go to like a local, like before. We just go to a local testing center, like a normal Specsavers, and you pay like £30 for an intensive test, and they put drops in your eye and do tests. And now you have to go to an eye surgeon and pay like anywhere between £300 to £500 to get these special tests done, which is good because like long term we're looking after our health. Like in the UFC, you're good as gold. Like before my last fight, I had COVID back in March. I didn't have any side effects. I just had COVID in March. So I declared that the UFC. So they sent me for like, I end up doing like tests on my heart, tests on my lungs, tests on different things, just make sure that you're fully fit. And they do look after the fighters, and like the after fight medical care is ridiculously good.
Oh, I think we lost you for a second there, Mason. You're back
Sorry
now,
about
though. You're right. No, it's good. No, but that's amazing to hear. I mean, you hear about fighters that for a very long time they're fighting and continuing their day jobs, because when you hear about, oh my God, they've just got a 50K bonus and all that kind of stuff, the last thing you think is that they're going to end up walking away with such a small amount of money in comparison to what you're starting with, especially when you are just on that kind of 10 and 10 to begin with and all that kind of stuff. You do imagine that people are walking away like $60,000-$70,000 richer, and that's not the reality of the situation. And there's so many fighters finding themselves in financial difficulty trying to pursue a job that, let's be honest, if you're not training it constantly day in day out, it's not just your career that falters, your health is at risk as well, because it is a dangerous sport. So it's surprising to me that the medicals are paid for by the fighters and not by the organizations. But I think it's really great to hear from a fighter how the breakdown of that kind of pay works, because it's very easy for people sat at home that do their day jobs Monday to Friday go, oh, I'd love to have earned 60K for 15 minutes in a fight or something, but that's not the realities of it.
So I seen a discussion not long ago on an MMA page that I follow, and they were on about fighter pay, and they said, how much do you think fighters should get paid? And I seen someone commented saying, I would fight anyone for 25 grand. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's hell and good, because then those are the people who think that they go from their life and their day job now where to a fight where it's not the way. Like, so for me, like out in Team Alpha at the moment, I'm looking at like the places I stay. So like when I Airbnb, if my coaches come with me, you're looking at, I think when I paid for Airbnbs before, like I'm looking at probably £2,000 a month to stay, to rent a house for a month. Just from Airbnb, like you can rent a normal house out here for about 1,800 a month to upwards to 2.5, because it's California, the capital of California. Do you know what I mean? So you're looking at that's in dollars, but obviously when I do the Airbnb app, they charge me about £2,000. So it's a bit more of the exchange rate, different things. But you're looking about that per month. You're out in camp training. Then you look on your food bills and different things. Like you're eating a diet, you're eating healthy. food's quite expensive out here. You're looking at spending probably between $200-300, perhaps more, a week just on food. Then your training fees, like I pay a monthly fee to the gym to train. It's, to be fair, they're quite good to me. They charge me the team fees now, but you add that on. Then I pay for 2 privates a month, one pad a week. Sorry, one pad session with a friend of mine out here, and then another one I do a wrestling pad session. Like I think when you add it all up, I'm spending like £150 a week just on privates, or 130. Then you add on your fees, like when you fight, your manager fees, your coaches fees, different things, your kit costs, supplement costs. To be fair, I'm quite good. UFC provide me with phone supplements, so that makes a massive difference. But like you start to like, so training fee, so to get back full the gym, I pay fuel costs. I bought a car out here after one of my fights, so I use fuel costs. Do you know what I mean? You add that on. Different things, and like you look at how much you spend in different things, and like the lifestyle is different. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not exactly as if it's someone who works in an office job, who they're living as frivolous as possible, and they're trying to save money as much as possible, and different things. Like if I do that, like one, I don't perform, and two, I'm not in peak physical health. Like you have to do all these right decisions and like find the best places to train and the best places to fight and all these different things, and they cost money, and it is expensive being out there, and like people don't see that side of things. So then I had another question asked me, and someone said, well, do you think fights should get paid more? And I was like, well, of course I'd love to get paid more money. I'd love to be paid like they do in basketball. Like we was watching my friend out here loves basketball, and he was watching basketball out here, and like they had new signees in the NBA, and they were paying them like, I think one of the new signings straight out of college had like an £18 million contract or something ridiculous. Like I'd love to be paid that. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it doesn't work out. Like I went to a Bellator event, like I said, over the weekend, and they pay more than UFC does. Straight up, they pay more, but they don't have the supplement stuff. They don't have the PI, the Performance Institute. Like the PI is a wonder. The amount of testing, different things I've done in the PI makes a massive difference. They don't. There's no uniforms and stuff, and like being able to have like personalized UFC kit and different things, like it's cool. Also, you miss out on sponsors, and certain people would earn more money with sponsors through there, but most people aren't gonna earn more than you get through that. Like it's just, it swings and roundabouts. Like you could get more money, but then certain people aren't going to get more money. So you definitely do lose out on that side of things, especially with Bellator. But yeah, again, it's another part of it. That like the security is different. The whole event has like a different theme. Like UFC is run way more professional than the Bellator events are, and it's like it all sort of it all affects, and like the UFC do all the drug testing, Bellator don't. The UFC drug testing that they pay for is going to cost thousands as well. So it does sort of like, I do understand where the money goes, but then when you look at like the UFC's just signed a new contract with the cryptocurrency sponsor for 110 million. It's not as if they couldn't break 1 million down and split it between the fighters as another bonus, the same way they do with Venom. They could have, but I don't know. UFC is definitely behind on the payments side of things, and it would make things easier. But like I said, I don't fight to get paid. Like it's just a bonus at the end of the day. I try to build it up so that my sponsors cover all my costs, and I'm starting to get to that place where I am almost there. It's cost me a lot of my savings, but again, it's all in. That's where we got to be.
Absolutely. Well, we're just approaching the hour, and so before we love you and leave you, what's coming up? What's next?
So I'm waiting to find out. I actually haven't got any news. That's the truth, God's honest truth. But I was cutting weight towards September the 4th in London. I was hoping to get on that fight. After I fought in June, I asked to fight in August. My manager said no. He said the London card's been moved to September. He said we'll get you on the London card. Then they were trying to get me on the London card, and because it was already meant to be in August and they moved it to September, there was already people who had been promised show a fight on that card. So the card was pretty full. And then I spoke to the manager and I was like, look, just give me somewhere else. I'll fight in the States. I said, I don't care. I just want to fight. And he said, no, he said, I spoke to Sean, the matchmaker, and he said, we're still looking September the 4th, he said, because they've got some fights that haven't been confirmed yet, so they're hoping to get you on there. And then all the upheaval with the border crossing being closed and different things, they moved the card from London back to Vegas. So then I don't know what's happening with that, but I literally said, if I'm still fighting September the 4th and they still want me to fight on that date, then I need to know by Saturday. But I haven't got anything confirmed. I don't know what date we're looking at, because if I don't get put on the September the 4th card, I don't know if there's any of the other cards have space to put me on, but I want to fight soon. So September, I'm looking at, I'm preparing for September. My weight's coming down perfectly. I'm starting to sort of rip up nice, and I feel good. I've got no injuries, a couple of niggles, but nothing bad. And it's just pushing forwards and getting that first win.
Well,
My last fight should have been my first win.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been your first win. You were dominating that fight, and it was just really unfortunate what happened. Alan Patrick has come out saying, I think quite early on after the fight, came out saying that he thinks you should have a rematch. I mean, it looked like one-way traffic to me. Do you look at that and go, I've basically beat you already? Or do you think, no, let's do a rematch then? What do you feel about that?
Alan Patrick's got a 6-month medical suspension from where I split his eye open with a knee. So obviously I would love to fight again. I'd love to. It was going one way for me, and it gave me confidence going back into that fight. But waiting around for him to get medically cleared sometime towards the end of the year isn't really on the agenda for me. So after I get this fight and I get a win, if they want to rematch me against Alan, then they can rematch me against Alan for January or February, and I'll go again. But I want to get this fight out the way in September, and then I can look at next year.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Well, thanks so much, Mason, man. This has been such an insightful chat, and it's been really great talking to you.
No, I appreciate it, and I appreciate having me on. I do apologize for being 30 minutes late. So I need to run now, because now I'm running 30 minutes late. So
oh no, well, mate, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you on again in the future when you're on time.
Anytime, mate. Anytime. And again, I do apologize, but yeah, I look forward to speaking to you in the future.
No problems, man. All the best. Have a good one.
Mason.
Bye.